Certain bacterial pathogens can also cause soft rots, and these are relatively slimy, kind of juicy looking decays on plant parts. The most notorious of these is bacterial soft rot, which oftentimes affects different types of vegetable crops, including potatoes and broccoli, cauliflower. Pretty much any type of plant part can be susceptible. If you've ever had a potato tuber or a bag of potatoes that has kind of liquefied in your refrigerator, then you've encountered bacterial soft rot. What's very interesting about this particular disease is that the bacterium infects and digests the pectin in the plant. Pectin is the glue that holds the plant cells together. So when you get an infection with soft rot bacteria, they tend to cause the tissue to collapse and kind of liquefy. If you take a look at that liquefied tissue, you will see that there are still live plant cells there. It's just that that glue that holds them together has been eaten away. This disease can be a really serious issue in potato storage. When they store potatoes commercially, they are in these huge buildings, mountains of potatoes. And if you end up getting bacterial soft rot, it can liquefy one of these piles in a matter of 2 to 3 days. You can actually climb up onto these mountains of potatoes, and you have to be very, very careful, because if there happens to be a pocket of bacterial soft rot, you can take a step as you're walking across the potatoes and end up sinking in. I do know of some people that have been inspecting these stored potatoes, have been walking along, taken a step, and ended up to their waists in rotten, smelly potatoes. Now, I have to mention that the odor that you associate with rotting potatoes really isn't due to the bacterial soft rot organism. That particular organism really doesn't smell that bad. But what happens is once the bacterial soft rot organism decays the tubers, that decayed tissue becomes a nice growth medium for a variety of other types of bacteria, particularly organisms like Clostridium, which produce a lot of butyric acid, and that's really what gives the rotten potatoes the really foul smell. And I have to say, I'm not a big fan of getting soft rotted potatoes into my lab, because that odor tends to permeate everything. And the worst part is that after a while, when you've worked with these tubers, you don't even notice that there's a bad smell. Another interesting story about bacterial soft rot comes from one of my colleagues who had a friend who worked as an extension agent in California and was called out to diagnose a problem in a broccoli field. And as it turned out, it was bacterial soft rot. They ended up having to diagnose this particular problem from the road using binoculars, because the stench of the rotten broccoli was so absolutely awful.